what he always does. Daniel does best in the midst of a crisis. What Daniel does most is P-R-A-Y. Always. Daniel was always found praying. He must have had some strong idea that God was sovereign. He must have had some thought that God was so sovereign that he could pray, that God would answer his prayer. And that is what he is going to do in chapter 10 again. He stays to deal with his people, and here he faces the dilemma of their indifference in his usual way through prayer. Verse 1, and a thing was revealed unto Daniel. Daniel, in verse 1, receives a revelation. This revelation was true. He understood very well this revelation. The things were true. Listen, the character of this vision is so startling and so unhumanly unbelievable that his statement was made to assure the readers not to be thrown off by the astounding nature of this prophecy. But don't we say this is the honest to goodness truth? This is the honest to goodness truth. Notice the appointed time was long, or a great revelation of great conflict, or even a great warfare. It speaks of a great warfare. A host of angels, an army of men, are actual warriors. The content of chapter 10 gives us this rendering. This vision is true and involves a great conflict. So the prophecy is about conflict, warfare, from holy angels in space to Russia to Israel on earth, and Daniel's time is our time. So Daniel chapter 8, Daniel was left confused, verse 27, but here he understood, he got the message. And we're going to go see 6 points. The morning towards heaven, manifestation of heaven, mastery of heaven, messengers from heaven, mysteries in heaven, message from heaven. Those are the 6 points. I may get 1 or 2 tonight. And all of these elements tell us he has come to earth. First, notice verse 2 and 3. Verse 2 and 3. Verse 2 and 3. Richard, if you read 2 and verse 2 and 3.
In chapter 10.
Daniel 10.
Okay. In those days, I, Daniel, was mourning 3 full weeks. I ate no pleasant bread, neither came flesh nor wine in my mouth. Neither did I anoint myself at all, until 3 whole weeks were fulfilled.
In the 3rd year of Cyrus, we know more than that. We know the day, verse 4, 3 days after Nisan, he started and quit on the 24th day. It's interesting that Passover started on the 14th day. So Daniel mourned all the way through Passover and the week of Lebanon, a season of celebration, of activity. But throughout all this most important season, Daniel was wrapped up in his mourning, praying and fasting. It's like he didn't take time out to celebrate Christmas. He didn't stop. Notice during this 3 weeks, heaven was silent. The sky was like brass, no response. And Daniel is not used to that kind of treatment. You remember, he got instant response most of the time. Daniel was used to instant service. Certainly not 21 days of nothing. How many of us would pray 21 days if we didn't receive some sense of satisfaction that at least God was hearing, or he was sending his messenger somewhere else? Maybe God wants us to fast and pray for a period of time. How long are we willing to pray to see God answer our prayer? Verse 3. This does not mean he did not eat. What it means is that he did not eat the dainties, our fancy foods. He restrained from going to the banquets. Nor did he drink wine or meat. Notice he nor anoint himself. No aftershave. Darn. No oil on the body to protect him from the sun. A system of joy, a sign of social gathering. In time of mourning, this oil was not doing him any good. Yet he didn't want the interaction. You don't want to give the idea of joy or social. You are living in a moment of sorrow. So he eats nothing that was fancy and was putting nothing on himself. They didn't have bad deodorant that day, so they had to use some kind of oil so they wouldn't, you know. What is remarkable is this 85 to 90-year-old man was on a 21-day fast. Now, let me say this, and I don't want you to miss the point. This does not mean necessarily God gets favor because you fast. However, if you are so turned into God and so burned and burdened in your heart, so pure and so right that you don't eat for 21 days, God will bless you for the effort. Once I start eating or snacking, I can't quit. I have to snack on something. So that's the reason I have watermelon and grapes. Well, but it's interesting, once I get involved in my studies, I don't even think about it. But if I'm piddling around doing nothing and just piddling around just from one place to another place, I have to go back downstairs and get me something to eat. But Daniel was so involved in his prayer life that he almost totally forgot to eat and be involved. Why did you do this? Simply, they didn't go back. They didn't go back. Dorothy was saying that her granddaughter hasn't eaten for a couple weeks. I mean, she's so in mourning per se that there's no desire to eat. And the desire that the Pendleton family have about losing their son. And then again, Junior Sehu that apparently committed suicide today. All the same age. And I asked Eric, called and told me, I said, Eric, you're the same age all these guys are. You doing okay? There's something about being 40s that's kind of dangerous. Only a small group went back, and they were unsuccessful when they went back. Daniel does not know what we know, that the 70 years of deliverance was not begun at the time of Daniel's captivity, because Jerusalem was not destroyed until 586 BC, nearly 20 years later. So the captivity didn't start until 20 years later. So the decree of Cyrus was just a primary one. There were 3 deportations. You remember the 3 deportations, right? Man, if I heard those once, I heard them 100 times. 505 BC, 596 BC, and 586 BC. Thought you'd want to know that. You wrote that down, I hope. But the fullness of the 70 years, that's a test question coming up. But the
586 and 596.
But the fullness of the 70 years was not fully completed fully until 20 years later. But he was praying and longing for their return to the land. Notice the second point, the manifestation from heaven. Charity, verse 4. The manifestation from heaven, verse 4.
And in the 24th day of the month, as I was by the side of the great river, which is Hiddekel.
Huh?
You want me to?
Hiddekel, yeah, that's
Hiddekel.
Why?
Then I lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a certain man clothed in linen, whose loins were girded with fine gold of Uphaz.
Okay, let's don't go there yet. After 21 days, he finds himself beside the Tigris River, 60 miles east. Boy, he got transported. Now, that's a debate. Verse 5 and 6, Here you are 60 miles from nowhere, coming off a 21-day fast, and you see this. A form of a, did you read 5 and 6, Charity? Read 5 and 6.
I read 5.
I read 6.
His body also was like the beryl, and his face as the appearance of lightning, and his eyes as lamps of fire, and his arms and his feet like in color to polished brass, and the voice of his words like the voice of a multitude.
A form of a man, clothed with gold, face like lightning, eyes like fire, feet like brass, voice like many waters. His body flashing like a topaz, and his voice was like the sound of an army. He's come off a 21-day fast. He's been praying. He finds himself 60 miles away from where he thinks he is, and he sees this person. Who was this certain man? He was no other than, some say, and there's 2 points of view here. One week I'll take the other view. This view, I'm going to take him as being the Lord of glory. Next week I'll take him as the other person. I don't know. I wasn't there. If the Lord appeared to Abraham, Genesis chapter 18, and Moses in Exodus 3, why not Daniel? That's a good guess. The Son of Man, note Revelation 1, from the Revelation 1, verses 12 through verse 15. Notice the description of the Son of Man. Daniel chapter 1, verses 12 through verse 15. Mary, you have Romans, Revelation?
Not yet.
Oh, you don't have it yet. I want you to see here, this is a description that John sees of the Son of Man. So there is perhaps a link that this angel could have been, and possibly was, until next week, the Son of Man. Revelation chapter 1, you have it. Going once, going twice. Gone.
Verse.
Now, what
12, 13.
And I turned to see the voice that spake unto me. And being turned, I saw 7 golden candlesticks. And in the midst of the 7 candlesticks, one like unto